Hi, I'm Steve Carson with Stumptown Disc Golf, and we're here at Leverage Park in Vancouver, Washington, USA to talk about disc golf, the official rules and techniques. The PDGA is the source for your rules for disc golf. They have rules that can be downloaded online, or you can actually purchase a copy of the rules, or paid members actually get a copy of the rules when they join. There are a lot of rules for disc golf. However, the basic rules are not that complicated. I've broken the rules down into three different categories for today's topic. The first being conduct of players, the second area being the equipment, and finally the rules of play. Under the conduct of players, there are a couple of categories that are important, or a couple of items that are important for the players to keep in mind. Number one is an important rule whether you're playing in a tournament or casually, and that is that you should only throw when it's safe to do so. You need to keep a close eye on what's ahead of you, players that are walking by or just casual people in the park that you're playing at. You need to only throw if it's safe to do so. The second thing has to do with your play with others in your group or other groups on the course, and that's to not be a distraction. It's not allowed to be trying to throw somebody's throw off by distracting them while they're playing or throwing or putting. The next two are kind of personal pet peeves of mine. Littering is a courtesy violation, as is smoking that's done that disturbs other players. Throwing a cigarette butt on the ground is also littering. Littering is a violation of the rules and should not be done, and does not help to keep our sport clean if you're doing those things. Finally, order of play under conduct. Order of play is basically that the person teeing off first is the person that's written first on the scorecard. After that, you always want to let the person farthest away from the basket throw next. And then on the next hole that you tee off of, you want to have the person that had the lowest score on the previous hole, or if you've tied on the previous hole, the person that started first on the previous hole would be the next person to tee off. The next category or subcategory that we're going to talk about today is equipment. There are a lot of different rules that govern the equipment to play in disc golf, from the discs to the baskets. There are a lot of guidelines that cover how those things should be manufactured, whatever. For you as a player though, the thing that you just want to keep in mind is your disc needs to be approved by the PDGA, and you shouldn't be making any modifications to the disc. You're not allowed to carve in your disc or type anything onto your disc or make any modification that's going to change the flight of your disc. There are also rules having to do with the mini marker, about the size, how large it can be. The next category that we're going to talk about is rules of play. Number one, the basic concept basically of throwing your disc and continuing to throw until you finish the hole with your disc in the basket, keeping track of your points and your score as you go along. The next section has to do with teeing off. You must throw from within the teeing area that's marked. You're not allowed to step beyond that before you let go of the disc, so you do have to be on the tee pad when you throw your disc from the tee area. The next area has to do with marking your lie. Once your disc is on the ground, you're going to mark your lie with a mini disc by placing that disc in front of the previous spot, and then your next throw has to be taken with your closest point of contact behind that marker disc. You can step back a little bit from that marker, up to 30 centimeters, but you have to be on the line of play between the basket and that line. Your foot has to be there. No stepping to the side to get around an obstacle or to avoid that. Speaking of obstacles, I think the rule of thumb there is obstacles are a part of the course. You're not allowed to move an obstacle just because it's in the way or because your disc is maybe under an obstacle. In fact, the rules state that you have to make your throw making the minimal amount of movement of that obstacle. If your disc is in a bush, you can't just pull the bush out of the way to make your throw. You have to throw from that area right where it came down. Casual obstacles are treated a little differently. Casual obstacles are defined as loose leaves, puddles, debris, a vehicle that might be in the way, or animals that are on the course. You are allowed to take some relief from casual obstacles. If the casual obstacle is between your disc or behind the disc and not between the disc and the basket, you can move those things out of the way in order to have a good place for your feet to be or to throw, like if your disc is underneath a car or something. All right, the next thing we're going to talk about is if your disc comes to rest above the regular line of play or the ground. If your disc is up in a tree, then you want to mark your disc on the ground directly below where the disc is, and then you play your disc from that spot. There's no penalty for that unless, of course, marking it is in an out of bounds area. Which brings us to talking about out of bounds. Most courses have certain areas that are out of bounds. A creek, a lake, pavement is often out of bounds and designated as out of bounds. And when your disc goes out of bounds, you need to move your disc back in bounds and then play with a one-stroke penalty to that spot. Your next shot has to be taken either from your previous lie, where the disc was before, be that the tee pad or the place on the ground where you marked your previous lie, or right where the disc went out of bounds. You don't play from out of bounds, that's an illegal play also. But you mark your disc right in bounds. You can move it up to a meter perpendicular from the out of bounds line. Our next area is for a lost disc. If you lose a disc, and it does happen quite often, a lost disc is a stroke penalty and you have to play from the previous lie. When you're out searching for the disc, at some point when you're looking, your players that you're playing with are going to call a 3-minute timer, and once that 3 minutes are over, then your disc is declared lost and you have to go and play from that previous lie with that stroke penalty. Knowing the rules will make you a better player and may even save you a few strokes or help you make good decisions regarding your play. You'll also be less likely to be penalized for making a mistake if you understand the rules.